in any format that is convenient for you. So first of all, thank you so much, Anthem Democrats, for having me over. There are some guests on this call that are not Anthem Democrats who've been invited as well, and it's a pleasure to see you all and to introduce my candidacy to you, albeit virtually. I hope that you're comfortable, safe, have a wine and a cheese at your home, and are weathering this storm boldly. So moving on, I just wanted to bring your attention to a few maybe new pieces of information about my candidacy here, specifically a few things about my background. So I'm a brand new US citizen. It's a really big deal for me. I still keep my flag from the ceremony handy and close. It is a really great piece of memorabilia for me. I've been a Colorado resident for almost 20 years and a Broomfielder, a resident of Broomfield, for close to 12 years. And it's been 7, it felt like very long years of waiting for my citizenship. So it's a very big moment in my life to really fully take this country as my home and this opportunity to stand up as a Democrat and participate in the democratic process. It means a lot. I also am a lifelong activist, an environmentalist, community organizer, originally from Belarus, where as a 15-year-old, I have created a nonprofit ecological organization at a school level, organization that within 1 year grew to a national nonprofit, and that was then supported by the United Nations, was picked as one of the best, fastest growing youth structures. As a leader of that, I have been invited to remarkable meetings, including one with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. It's fascinating to sort of think back. I distinctly remember just the sheen, the gloss on the beautiful wooden table that seemed to go on forever, and feeling completely out of the place amidst the generals and party officials and leaders. And Dalai Lama's assistants picked me to bring a box of materials to hand to the young people of the country. And that felt very special. It felt like there's something out there to do, a different way to be, a different way to connect with people, and being seen and recognized already at that age meant a lot. I'm also a researcher. I'm a published author. As a member of CU Boulder's faculty, I teach still. I'm a graduate of their doctoral program, but I remained on as a faculty, currently teaching for several programs. One of them is Space Minor. It's a badging program, a certifying program that teaches, offers all sorts of classes in astrophysics, in space exploration. I teach 2 classes on space exploration and the future of space innovation. There, I also teach for the Germanic and Slavic languages and literatures program, where I teach Russian language, literature, and culture courses. It's really fun. I continuously research mindfulness, and I'm a student of contemplative neuroscience. I'm heavily invested in mental health work. I contribute on an innovation think tank. I've brought a $250,000 grant for the university to improve our curriculum to help offset our students' growing epidemic of distress, shall we say it, or otherwise known as anxiety, depression, and of course suicide, unfortunately. So as someone who is connected deeply well, we have one more participant here. Let me see if I can get into this. And I don't even know if I can admit a participant, maybe. Yes, I think I can. I cannot see so do pardon me, everybody, because suddenly I am shifting out here to admit Lynn. Hi, Lynn, please join. Yeah, so I was just talking about my background, but yes, most importantly, in a fun way for me, I am a Democrat and a voting activist who finally has a chance to actually participate. So here you have a picture of me voting for our president in the very recent primaries. So my background is as follows. I completed a BA in linguistics in Poland. It was a pedagogical institution that trained basically teachers. So I taught my K through 12 classes there every summer. And then I've moved on to teaching at the university as I came here to Colorado to pursue my master's work, graduate work, master's and PhD work. So both of my master's and PhD, as you can see, are in comparative literature. For me, these were Russian studies, literature, gender studies, and film studies. They were sort of cross-bound. But in the midst of them, of course, I've taken classes well outside of my degree to receive a more rounded education because I was curious. And so I've taken 4 credit electives at CU Boulder's law school, as in sit down and take a full 3-hour exam with an open book for credit, for grade that will actually impact your GPA. So I've taken 3 big classes there, an international law, European law, and US constitutional law. I've also pursued certificates in permanent agriculture, leadership trainings that have been offered by government structures, as well as mindfulness training. And here you're meeting my family. This is sort of a collage of family pictures. Prominently, my dad here from the left. We're absolute lovers of outdoors in Colorado and appreciate greatly the beautiful continental divide that we get to witness here from the top of Rocky Mountain National Park. We also love to go fishing. You also see a picture of me with my family here. My husband, David Nicoll, who's a 2-tour honorably discharged veteran from Iraq. My sister here with a horse, our beautiful Colorado sky on my driveway home, and a picture with my husband's mother from the left, Kathy, his sister, who is a mental health worker who supports veterans, people with PTSD, a trained licensed psychotherapist here in Colorado. My mom in the center with a walking cane, a pediatrician, Valentina, who's helped draw iodine charts on the kids' chests, as I mentioned to you during the cleanup of the Chernobyl disaster after effects, myself and a friend, Roger Bagg, who is a surgeon and an owner of the Carbon Valley Animal Hospital. He's a friend who has literally introduced me to a number of influencers in the Weld County, business owners primarily. I also wanted to mention why I came to Colorado. Here's a beautiful picture of our Rocky Mountain here as well, taken literally from the corner of my car. I came to work on my doctoral, first and master's and then doctoral degrees. And in the process of all of this, I've, of course, been teaching, volunteering for nonprofit organizations, and I fell in love with the beauty of the country, of the people, nature. And in the midst of doing my work, I also encountered my now husband, David Nicoll, who at the time was Anderson Language Technology Administrative person. So basically it's a unit within university that supports all of the language teaching. And we have not met each other for over a year of our exchange. We've been supporting other people on campus and then eventually met, and there was an instant fall in love. So this is my Army combat veteran here. Some of his lovely diplomas here that we're quite proud of, and I'm glad that we have them in one piece. So one of the biggest important, I guess, elements from my background that I wanted to include here is the fact that I have actually lived through some very serious environmental disasters. One of them, of course, most prominently is the Chernobyl one, where I have witnessed my parents take a very active stance, and I have seen the impacts of this disaster, its aftermath, for years on my friends, my family. You know, the health impacts were so visible. The generation that was immediately sort of my 2 years younger than myself, in my school, we all had enlarged thyroids. And then several age groups down, they literally had to have their thyroids operated on as kids in school. So it didn't take long for the serious consequences to health to be immediately visible and palpable for everybody. And here on this slide, I have a counter for you, a picture from my daughter's school's performance of a celebration dedicated to Martin Luther King. We were all in tears as parents, standing there and feeling so proud and happy. And I felt particularly lucky to be here in this country where we have the privilege of clean water, of clean air, or at least in theory, right? If you really touch on this a little bit deeper, most recently, the findings sort of demonstrate, at least in Colorado, that we are one of the worst polluters due to fracking operations in terms of air and soil and water. It's unfortunate, but nonetheless, still at the sort of the level of a state, of course, there is the right that is recognized as your inalienable right, right? That is, they're playing, I'm not going to play it for you, but it's pretty loud. They're clapping and we're quite delighted. So, as a new US citizen who's been raised in a former Soviet country, in a communist bloc country, I know very personally what it feels like to not be recognized by your state as an individual, to not matter, to not have the voice, to as I mentioned in my address to the Broomfield Dems, to be riding on a bus and seeing people arrested just for their investigative journalism work and sort of getting on with it, feeling like it's normal, what's for dinner, while it's really, really far from normal. And so for me, this moment of standing up for our democracy is very, very powerful. It's deeply connected to the values that I have inherited, that I have been exposed to, because most of my work, of course, in the nonprofit sector has been guided by none other by the leader, the president, actually, of Peace Corps efforts in neighboring Poland at the time, who happens to be a Coloradan, who happens to live in Longmont, has been my mentor for many, many years. A person who has actually served under President Clinton, has guided some 12 countries of the former communist bloc to the recovery, to their claim of statehood, of independence, and in some cases to the democracy. And so I have inherited visions and beliefs of American culture, of American ideals for a free society, a society that is ruled and governed by the representatives of the people. So it's by the people and for them. And so it is my hope that I can bring some of this inspiration, passion, as well as experience and training to the service in this office. Having a terminal degree allows you to do at least one thing really, really well, and it's called reading. It's sort of a dying skill these days, less and less popular at the university, as I can report. But in my case, of course, it's an impassioned kind of reading. I'm an eternal student, and I'm voraciously studying new fields, including things that are pertinent to this particular position, such as environment, or updates on them, new proposals with the healthcare and mental health that, of course, interest me. So some of the ones that I really care about have been recently proposed by Representative Jonathan Singer, and I've seen them in action in Longmont, just to mention a few. So here you're looking at my suggested priorities. Of course, they're on the website, my website, galina4sd23.com, where you can read them in a little bit more detail, because I am proposing some very specific solutions to current problems, beginning with this absolutely disaster of an environmental crisis that we're facing today. So some of my top issues are here. This is not an exhaustive list by no means, but it's an indication of what I really care about. So as your legislator, I promise to bring my record of service and leadership skills to this greater mission of protecting our way of life, our public lands, beautiful Colorado, and definitely bringing in the kind of legislation that speaks to the needs of the people. So it will, of course, be my honor to be the voice for you all in our state Senate. So here's the little slide that has now become the actual